And I see this a lot. We do role plays where I say, okay, I'm the employee, you're the boss. I just gave you a report and it's missing these things. I want you to tell me what you really think of the report. Tell me what it's missing and tell me to do it again. And it's really hard for them to speak in a direct, clear, and concise way without using all this qualifying language and hedging words. And then from the individual contributor's perspective, we're trying to figure out, what exactly do you want me to do? What do you actually think? And then what are the steps that you want me to take? So yeah, can you speak more to that? Because I think it's so rampant, especially with women. I see it most with women.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I've observed this in myself too. There's something about, I don't want them to feel bad, because if they feel bad, then I feel bad. Because I think I inflicted that bad feeling. So then because I don't want to feel bad, I want to make sure they don't feel bad. And so there's a bit of the tolerance to say, on one hand, we all own our own emotions. So being clear and saying, it is my duty. And as a manager, it's most often not explicit in your job description, but it is your responsibility to give feedback and to recognize and really point out the strength and the development areas. And to let people know how they're being perceived, or how their actions, even if they come from really good intentions, may negatively impact those around them. It is your job as the manager to point these things out and identify the patterns or the behaviors. And so from that standpoint, I have to be okay if they are getting frustrated or sad or disappointed based on what I'm saying. I will try my best to lower their defense mechanisms, to make sure that this is a safe conversation where they know their relationship is not at risk. The reason why I'm sharing this is to help you be successful and help you to learn and grow. But it's my responsibility to share it and bring it to the point so that you understand and it hits home. My message lands. And so there's the two ways. With one, I want to make sure that their defense mechanisms don't go up. So creating that safety. And then two, it is, like you said, being really clear. And when we can embrace the fact that any emotion that they have is justified, it's welcomed, it's okay. The emotional reaction to the feedback is theirs to own. Mine to own is how I feel and the way I deliver the message. And then they can react in any way. And so detaching from that sometimes help us see that I'll be compassionate. If they start crying or they start getting frustrated or disappointed in themselves because of the feedback that I give, I can be there present and compassionate with them. Because I can say, like, yeah, if I got feedback like this, it would maybe take me a day to really make sense of it and embrace it. And that is okay. I'm not trying to control their emotional reaction, because once we try to, which we really can't, but if we try to, we start to be unclear, wishy-washy, and sugarcoating. So I think the way to go about this is to be as clear as possible and then be compassionate with their response.
And how do you coach people? I'm really curious about the actual wording that you coach people to use, because I find that in theory, it sounds great. And then when people are actually in that situation, they fall back on old language habits and patterns. Do you have certain phrases, or is there a method that you follow besides the overarching container of safety and then being clear?
Yeah. Well, generally speaking, I would say, and I'm trying to get here specific with the language, but I would say starting off with, and this depends, the reason why I'm hesitating is because it really depends on the relationship that's already there. If this is a long-lasting work relationship and there's a lot of trust and safety already in place, you need less of the hedging, less of the leading in and intention setting and all that. If it's somewhat of a new relationship, maybe this is a new employee, and this is the first time that you're bringing up something that you might have noticed, then, and you don't know yet how they're going to react, but you worry that this will change the relationship. So leading in and saying, hey, I want to raise something and bring something to your attention that I have noticed or that I have become aware of. And I'm sharing this with you because I think it's important for me to communicate things that I see maybe getting in your way, or where I'm not sure if you're seeing the impact your actions have on other people, whatever that may be. Or I want to share this with you because I want you to learn from this opportunity the most that you can get, so that next time around, you have the information you need to do this at the next level, to really grow and expand in your role. So feedback conversations are the best tool for improvement. It's the number one tool for improvement. So as your manager, this is my responsibility, and I'd like to talk to you about it. Now, this was a very long-winded, but I'm just intro. What I hope that I gave different sentences here to pick and choose from. It doesn't need to be a 5-minute lead-in or warm-up, right? It could be a sentence or two to set the tone for the conversation, and then start right into that feedback conversation. Not to start off with praise and then go into something constructive and then end again with praise and what we've learned as the feedback sandwich. That starts to come across as manipulative, and we are more likely to sugarcoat. So getting in and saying, this is what I noticed. And then instead of saying, and here's what I want you to do differently, say what you noticed and then ask a question, because this is a feedback should never be a one-way dialogue. Or monologue. It should never be a one-way monologue. This is a dialogue. It should be a conversation where I share what I notice, and then I ask a question and I say, and it makes me curious, like, what was going on for you? Or how do you see it? How did you experience this? Do you see this happen in other areas of your life too? Right. So really helping them uncover what was going on, and for you to learn what may be the root cause of what you've observed. And then go into more questions about, okay, now that we've talked about this, what do you think you want to do differently going forward? Or what are you learning? What are you taking away from this conversation? And I think sometimes as a boss, we want to help. And so we want to give all the advice and guidance, but that can be overdoing it. At the end of the day, we still are looking for the other person to make a behavioral change, for example, and therefore the reasons and the path of doing that needs to come from within.
Yeah, and I love that, because it's an invitation for the person to reflect with you about what happened. Because I know when I've been given feedback, I already knew what was going on. I knew that at that moment, something was up and I shouldn't have done the thing. So actually having a conversation about it just allows it to be and be processed, and then say, well, you know, if I were to do it again, I would do X, Y, Z. And then I take power away from that conversation. I don't feel, you know, ground down into the ground. I feel like I'm growing. So yeah, I love that, asking with a question and making it a conversation instead of a, now you will do this, because that, I mean, no one wants to work with a person who does that kind of brand of leadership anymore, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that you bring out that you already know that if something happened, right? The moment that you get feedback. And I think it may not always be the case. And I've definitely been in situations where I thought, wait, we've talked about this many times, and it still sounds to the other person like we've talked about this for the first time. It's like, what am I doing wrong? Somehow I'm not getting through. And I take that on as my responsibility as the leader. But oftentimes people who want to do a good job, they do want to do a good job, and they don't wake up with bad intentions, as if I'm going to make some mistakes today and I'm going to be ineffective. Everyone tries to do their best, most people at least. And so extending that trust and assuming that they had best intent in whatever they were doing, and that they also have a level of self-awareness where they realize, maybe that wasn't quite what I was looking for, and creating then that space to talk it through and learn through the dialogue, and for them to feel like you got their back and you're helping them grow. That's establishing trust and setting up future feedback conversations in a really good way.